So my topic is on whether addictions are a choice or genetic, and really that's the big debate now these days. Just let me brush on what I think as far as integration. Can genetics and choice be integrated? And I would say technically no. God has given us the ability to withstand temptation. The question is whether it's genetic or choice. It's really one or the other, and it's on two opposite sides of the spectrum. But to start off, there is no sufficient evidence that addictions are connected to any gene in the human body. They aren't connected, but can help inspire it. So let me give you a few different definitions of what addiction is. I'll give you the secular definition and the Christian definition. The Christian definition would be any central motivating force in a person's life other than God that influences and determines the direction of that person's life. The American Medical Association defines an addiction as an illness that is characterized by significant impairment in the emotional, psychological, spiritual, physical, and social areas associated with persistent and excessive use of that substance. Really, both of these definitions are an accurate form of a Christian worldview. I mean, it really is. The addiction is an illness to an extent, but it's overall there is a choice that can be made. So here are a few verses that back up that addictions are a choice. 1 Corinthians 10:13 says, "No temptation has overtaken you that is not common to man. God is faithful, and he will not let you be tempted beyond your ability. But with temptation, provide the way of escape that you may be able to endure it." So, way of escape could refer to as therapy as such, or any different types of ways to break free. Galatians 5:1 says, "For freedom Christ has set us free. Stand firm, therefore, and do not submit again to the yoke of slavery." So really, there's a pattern in all these verses. It's quite clear that God has displayed choice in this world. All of his words are directional, showing that he wants us to obey him. When you look through God's perspective, if an addiction was genetic, we would have no choice but to enter it, and therefore we could not cure it or escape it. He would have intended us to be all alcoholics. He made it clear in the Bible that to become a drunkard clearly is a sin. So therefore saying that being an alcoholic is a sin, it's a choice to become a drunkard. And plus, addiction is not mentioned once in the Bible for a keynote. If God has set us up for failure, his words and death on the cross mean absolutely nothing. However, if we want to clear a problem, it needs to start with us. But society says that, hey, it has nothing to do with you. It has something to do with something outside you, and it's not your fault. As far as a few different examples of this, everything in society now has fallen under the medical model, really. So every little problem that you have, that's not your fault. It's something wrong with the brain or whatever. A good example is the case between Monica Seeley. She was a tennis player. In the 80s, a man came out to the tennis court and stabbed her while she was practicing, and he claimed that he was lovesick to the judge, and the judge let him off because he thought he had higher problems. Another example is Sue Silverman, who was really a sex addict. She went to 10 different therapists saying that the only way I could attain love is to keep having sex with all these men. And all the doctors and all the therapists said that, okay, that's true. That's probably what it is. I mean, it's not your fault. That's just what it is, and you can't escape the problem. She went to the 11th therapist, and the therapist said, "You can stop doing this." And she did listen to him, and the power of words really does help. She actually got away from her addiction. Dr. Benjamin Rush, who's also the father of psychiatry, he also believes, hey, everything, it's not your fault. But he's also the same guy that said that if you're black, in the day, if you were black, you had some form of leprosy. And if you did not join the revolution, you would have a disease called revolutia. And he was absolutely serious about it. So this was the father of American psychiatry. So, so what other reasons could play in the role for addiction? Um, if addictions aren't genetic, then why are people continuing to use them? There are many reasons for this behavior. One reason may be due to the environment in which they are a part of. A study was experimented with rats being exposed to cocaine water. Researchers found out that rats can continue to drink from a cocaine dispenser if did not dwell in an open social environment. The other rats that maintained themselves in a high social environment chose to drink water from a regular dispenser. Another study was experimented at Wake Forest University involving monkeys. The monkeys were placed in a zoo-like caged environment for 3 months. During these 3 months, the monkeys naturally worked out who were the hierarchical monkeys of the group. Once the leadership was established, the regular monkeys acted different than those who were in charge. The entire group of monkeys were given cocaine for an entire season. Similar to the rats, the monkeys that were bossed around continued to drink from the drug dispenser, while the monkeys in leadership felt no need to. So, these types of experiments help show that we engage in addictive lifestyles due to our negative emotions. Negative emotions play a huge role in our lives. Also, a negative environment also does too. So when you're in a negative environment situation, you tend to give into your guilt or just give into anything, and you'll start drinking alcohol or any type of other addiction. But also, environments can also play a positive role in stopping an addiction. So after the war in Vietnam, many American soldiers came back addicted to drugs. Their environment played a key role in them stopping their addiction. No one was doing drugs, so they were forced to quit. And about 88% of them quit on their own because they had to. They had parents, they had brothers, sisters, they had family, they had children. So really, it was up to them that they had to. There were no drugs around, so there was no choice. Also, since 1964, 60% of tobacco smokers have quit on their own. But media portrays, of course, that's not the case. You need to have like a tobacco or a nicotine patch or something. I mean, there's always something that you need help with. You need to see therapy. You need to do this. You need to do that. But that's just not the case in all situations. So it really does come. I mean, the more you look at it, it really does more come down to choice. Another debate that people seem to question is whether people are born with an addicting personality. Research has shown no such evidence. There is no certain substance that strictly is connected with personality trait. However, certain personality traits can help inspire an addicting behavior. There are personality features that can help correlate with addictions. Traits such as low self-esteem, high anxiety, helplessness, dependence, demanding attention, sociable. All these are features that can help play a role with alcohol, but there is no proof that personality traits are directly connected with any type of an addiction. Studies have shown by comparing alcohol and amphetamine use to having no connection with a certain personality trait at all. A category is not connected to a certain drug. Researchers have conducted studies with kids having certain personality traits. As the kids grow up, their personalities that would typically relate with alcohol showed that they did not conduct an alcoholic behavior. If personality is not the reason for addiction, then what are the possibilities for this to occur? The answer is, with so many other questions about human behavior, is complex. The list of causative features probably does not include personality, emotional problems stemming from genetic and childhood influences, but the difficulty in the useful elaboration of this concept lies in the determination of which of the emotional abnormalities found in drug users proceeded and which were produced by substances they used. Other questions involve whether personality changes over time due to genetic programming and experience of life. They also question if personality can change on a day-to-day basis. So the author by the name Heyman believes he's different than most authors and scientists and doctors on this view of addictions and genetics. He believes it is genetics to a point. He believes that once you do enter an addicting behavior, it's really hard to stop, and there's a good chance you're never going to stop. But he also believes that it really just comes down to voluntary choice. He believes that some people have a higher cognitive ability or have more cognitive space in their brain to choose a, a choice that's going to benefit them. So he believes that people work in two different ways. They choose addictions from a local perspective or a global perspective. The local perspective is, I'm going to take the high that benefits me right now and make me feel good. And the global perspective just says, hey, I'm going to do what's going to be best to benefit me in the future. So he believes that you have less cognitive space in your brain to choose a global perspective. And he said, yeah, so if you don't have the cognitive space, you're just going to choose local. You're going to choose the drug that's best going to fit you for this time. So really, there are so many different ways that can really come down to whether it's genetics or choice or not. There hasn't been any full research as to what it really is, but we know from a godly perspective that that it has to be a choice, no matter what. Yes, you fall into addiction, but overall there is a choice to make. Really, another reason is people stay in addiction is just because of pure pleasure. In 1972, the General House Survey, which is a big survey in Britain, gave a little experiment on how people really are addicted to pleasure. They interviewed many smokers, about 10,000 smokers actually, that signed up for this survey, and they said that 67% said that they would like to quit. And the research later showed that, yeah, 67% wanted to quit, but 67% didn't really want to quit. So really, it just comes down to wanting. And many of these people feel that smoking just outweighs the benefits in the long run. They don't care if it's going to do harm to their lungs. They don't care if alcohol is going to do harm to the liver. They believe, hey, it outweighs the benefits. I don't care. So really, that's what it comes down to. People will sacrifice their pleasure for their health. It doesn't matter. That's with everything. That's what everyone does. So that's another reason. So that's it.